are back at Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium, the home of the terrible towel. Sail out of bounds at about the 10. Word now that Walter Payton has just passed O.J. Simpson on the all-time NFL career rushing list, which means that he trails only Jim Brown and Franco Harris and is now third in NFL all-time rushing. The Vikings drive, a 6-yard scoring strike, Dills to Tony Galbraith.
5 plays, 59 yards, took 3 minutes, and Dills is having a good afternoon.
Vikings will back up and tee it up again from the 30-yard line.
You know, I think it's part the Minnesota Vikings, part the flatness of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Dills is now 13 completions and 19 attempts, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception.
What do you do if you're Chuck Noll to try to get your offense on track?
I think you have to open it up a little bit. I think you have to say to Cliff Stout, okay, put the ball up, do the things you want to do, and let's see if it works.
Ricardo this time sails a high end-over-end kick that Odom will field cleanly at the 10, to the 20. To the 30, explodes to the 36, and it'll be 1st and 10 Pittsburgh from that point. No flags. Walker Lee Ashley, the rookie out of Penn State. You and I saw him last year in the Sugar Bowl when you treated me to the New Orleans for a weekend. The Dolphins have gone up 31-0 now against the Baltimore Colts. Dan Marino, a 1-yard run. So Baltimore looks to increase their record to 8-4. Buffalo, of course, 7-4, but they were falling behind. 1st and 10 for the Pittsburgh Steelers from their own 36. Slot formation to the left side. Franco Harris, the lone running back. Nothing doing. He loses 2. Matt Blair chopped him down. You can see the fire right there in the Minnesota Vikings defense.
And that's what they knew they were going to have if they were going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, as everyone said, was on a roll. I mean, they're tied for the best record in the NFL with the Washington Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys.
This must be the week for teams to go flat. The Patriots have not scored at all against Cleveland. The Browns lead 23-0. 2nd and 12 now for the Steelers. They trail by 7. Stout. Incomplete, badly thrown ball, looking for Frank Pollard out of the backfield. The offensive unit, they're just not in sync with one another. The linemen not blocking for the backs, and Stout and his receivers not in sync, which is surprising because that was something that Cliff was talking about yesterday, how he was maturing and getting more in sync with the receivers and vice versa.
And that's a dramatic graphic. You're exactly right. Minnesota, 155 yards passing. Pittsburgh, only 36 yards. And we mentioned earlier that Pittsburgh has been more of a one-dimensional offense, running the ball a lot better than they've been able to throw it. And it's being exhibited here today.
Motion by Cunningham, the tight end. They need 12 for a 1st down. Stout fires over the middle. He's got his man. That's Garrity. 1st down, Pittsburgh.
It's the rookie from Penn State with the great hands. Greg Garrity, only 5'10", 170 pounds. Makes a big play. Remember a few weeks ago, Pittsburgh Steelers were losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Stout came back and hit some big plays. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case today, because the one lingering doubt in Chuck Noll's mind has been whether, if the Pittsburgh Steelers get behind, whether their offense can score in a hurry and get back in the game. I think that has still to be proven, even though they did it against Tampa Bay.
Garrity, by the way, who caught that 1st down pass, the only native Pittsburgher on the Steeler roster, from the 48 of the Minnesota Vikings. Stout, play action. Goes for all of it, got Sweeney and misses him by about 3 yards. That's been wide open all day. Sweeney told us yesterday they were going to run that play. Work on the corners of the Vikings. They like to play up about 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, but Stout just hasn't been able to get the ball to him.
And Sweeney has that deceiving speed. He was actually running right by Willie Teal. Stout unable to get him the ball there.
2nd down, 10 yards to go from the 48-yard line. Stout having his problems. Hand off to Hawthorne. Hawthorne with a convoy around the right side gets near the 41-yard line. Hawthorne in his 5th year out of Baylor. He's as dangerous as a wide receiver as he is as a running back. Randy Holloway in pursuit. finally chopped him down.
And you look at his career rushing, not many for a guy who's been in the league for 5 years. It's surprising to see him in the backfield because he's been mostly a wide receiver this year. But he told me yesterday, you know, I don't care whether it's wide receiver or running back. All I want to do is play.
You know, Hawthorne was the first running back drafted #1 by the Pittsburgh Steelers since Franco Harris. 3rd and 3. Big play for Pittsburgh. Blitz is on. Matt Blair was coming. Stout running for his life and throws it out of bounds in the general direction of Cunningham. And look at Lambert down on the sideline with a towel draped around his neck, screaming at the officials, claiming pass interference.
That was a good play by John Turner, number 27. He got up to bat that ball away. Stout did well to scramble and get the ball off. That's the extra dimension that Stout has. He's a big guy, 6'4". Let's take another look, okay, at Matt Blair. See Matt Blair on the blitz. Minnesota taking a page from the Pittsburgh Steelers, using aggressive defense to force Stout to throw off balance. The pass is incomplete.
And you saw Stout explaining the situation to head coach Chuck Noll. Noll just turned his back and didn't want to hear about it. He knows awful when he sees it. 4th and 3. Not Stout, just the way the offense has been performing since they scored on the opening drive. Colquitt will sail this one out of the end zone. That's almost like a free play. The line of scrimmage was at 39, so a net gain of 19 yards. I don't understand that. It's still a 7-point Viking lead.
Chevrolet, taking charge.
When you buy a dependable Chevy Chevette, you'll find you can also afford some of the other good things in life. Like extra money for a growing family, or an honest-to-goodness vacation. Because Chevette's so dependable, 97% ever built are still going strong. So you can plan to own your Chevette for years and begin putting your money into something other than a car.
Chevrolet,
And you.
taking charge.
A lot of fine telecommunications equipment ends up discarded before its time. Why? Some wasn't right for the company that bought it. Some couldn't grow with the company. Some the company's employees weren't trained to use. Some wasn't serviced right. Before you buy voice or data equipment that ends up here, talk to Sonocore Systems and avoid equipment that's expensive, well-made, high-tech, and junked. Sonocore Systems.
Two of college football's most explosive offenses will be on display when Walter Lewis leads Alabama against Doug Flutie and Boston College. NCAA football Friday on CBS Sports.
Time remaining in the 3rd quarter. It's been all Minnesota since Pittsburgh scored on their opening possession. Little delay. Jarvis Redwine, first down and more. His 2nd carry of the season for the Vikings, wrestled out of bounds by Dwayne Woodruff.
And Jarvis Redwine is a man who really got lost in the shuffle with the Ricky Youngs and the Darren Nelsons and the Ted Browns. Of course, a great running back at Nebraska in his 3rd year. Last year, no receptions, no carries. That time breaks a good gain for a first down, gets the Minnesota Vikings in good field position out of that hole.
That was also the longest carry of his career with the Minnesota Vikings, chased out by Woodruff, who said Pittsburgh's got to assume a more aggressive posture. We can't lay back and wait. We've got to create some things to happen. Casper motion near side. This is Galbraith sweeping left. Lambert, you saw him hurl his body out in front. The first man to get there, though, was Robin Cole. The Vikings are 6-5, tied with the Green Bay Packers for that top spot in the NFC Central. The Packers playing in Detroit. The Lions have a 31-yard field goal from Eddie Murray with 5:28 left to go in the 3rd quarter, and they've closed John to within 7. Green Bay leads 20-13. Meanwhile, the Giants are shellacking the Eagles in Philadelphia 16-0. Dills 13 of 20, 155 yards and 1 touchdown. Looks at 2nd and 7. Sideline, first down Minnesota. Sam McCullum turns around. Mel Blount again.
What a good play by Ricky Young. Jack Lambert was coming on the blitz. He would have been in Steve Dill's face, but Ricky Young cut him low at the knees, prevented that, thus the completion.
You know, the other side of Mel Blount, the human side. He has a camp for wayward teenagers, and he has a function coming up, Doc, in a couple of weeks.
In 3 weeks. And it's interesting that Mel Blount called Pete Rozelle, the commissioner, directly and said, Pete, can you come to my function to raise some money for these poor kids, these problem kids? And you know what Pete said? Sure, I'll be there. Sometimes you think of the commissioner being far away from the players. Not so.
Ricky Young gets the call and slithers across the 45 down to about the 44, and Jack Lambert, trying to pick up the intensity, throws his body out in front of the ball carrier once again. Well, you talk about Commissioner Pete Rozelle and the fact that he'll be attending that function, the camp run by Mel Blount for wayward teenagers. The commissioner is also here, sitting right next to the box with Art Rooney. The commissioner here with his lovely wife, Kara. 2nd and 10. Minnesota leads by 7. They've got the football and that old friend, momentum. Unloads to Galbraith. Galbraith breaks it inside the 40 and dives down to the 35. John Goodman made the tackle secure. And there is his wife, Carrie, behind, sipping some hot chocolate. On the eve of Super Bowl 18, the commissioner, and of course Super Bowl 18 right here on CBS Sports from Tampa Stadium, Tampa Bay. Third and 1. First down, Vikings. Down to the 32 goes Ricky Young.
And you have to be surprised the way the Minnesota Viking offensive line is pushing around the Pittsburgh Steelers. First downs. Look at that. 17 first downs for the Minnesota Vikings. Only 7 for Pittsburgh. And that's a credit, because this offensive line, last week we mentioned it against the Green Bay Packers. 6 sacks on their quarterback. Problems all year long. Now playing a terrific game against a very strong, aggressive Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line.
From the 32 of the Steelers, 1st and 10, Minnesota. Play action. Dills. Over the middle, got Casper again. Casper bowls his way down to the 20-yard line. 6'4", 241. David Little, 6'1" and 220, was hanging on.
Steve Dills actually wanted to throw that ball to Leo Lewis on the outside. There was double coverage. Instead, he took his time, found the secondary receiver. Casper picks up the first down.
Not much for this sold-out crowd to get into here at Three Rivers Stadium. They've been quiet since the opening possession by Pittsburgh, and what a job Bud Grant has done getting his Vikings ready. They had lost 3 games in a row. They were 6-2. They had a big lead in the NFC Central, but then they lost to St. Louis, they lost to Tampa Bay, and they lost to Green Bay. Another first down. Nothing doing this time. Chopped down. Jarvis Redwine, Edmund Nelson got to him.
And you have to think the pride of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense will start to come out now. I won't be surprised if Lambert and the Steelers start to blitz more, try to make something happen. They've been very passive. They haven't been aggressive the way they usually are.
Have you got your calculator with you?
I left it in New York.
Cardinals have scored again. Otis Anderson, a 1-yard run. St. Louis now leads San Diego 44-7. And of course, St. Louis and Dallas do battle here on CBS on Thanksgiving Day. It all starts at 3:30 Eastern time with the NFL today. 2nd and 11. Blitz is on. Dills throws it out of bounds in the direction of Sam McCullum, but that time Mel Blount was closer to the football. Pressure by Robin Cole and by number 57, Mike Merriweather.
Steve Dills faces that dual problem. When the pressure comes, as you look at his statistics for the afternoon, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception. When the pressure comes and the Pittsburgh Steelers were on an all-out blitz, it gives man-to-man coverage in the secondary. Dills just couldn't set himself and go for McCullum against Mel Blount. Of course, McCullum beat Blount earlier for a touchdown.
Line of scrimmage, the 21. It's 3rd and about 10.5 yards for the Vikings. Steelers would like some kind of a play and take them out of field goal range or maybe come up with a turnover. Dills. That is an incompleted pass. An incompleted pass to Galbraith. He did not have control at the 12-yard line. Donnie Shell, the man responsible for lack of control.
Galbraith looked like he was going to make a great catch, left-handed catch, but who was there to hit him, to meet him, to say, wait a minute, you can't have that in a first down. Watch him out of the backfield. Galbraith, left hand, puts it up, tries to pull it in, but Donnie Shell clocks him the ball, shaken loose.
Billy Werndell, our spotter from Philadelphia, had the binoculars on Donnie Shell. Ricardo, 8 of 10 between the 30 and the 39. Will try to add to that Minnesota lead. Vikings lead by 10. Steelers have to play catch-up. 1:52 left, third quarter.
Who makes the best-selling radials in America? Goodyear. We outsell all foreign radials combined. One reason, the Goodyear Arriva. It gives you long tread life. And best of all season traction in the wet stuff and the white stuff. The Goodyear all-season Arriva. It's one reason Goodyear is the leader in radials. No foreign maker of radials even comes close. Goodyear, #1 in radials.
Chevrolet, taking charge.
Here comes the hottest selling Chevrolet today. The fun-to-drive front-drive Cavalier. Fire up 2 liters of electronically fuel-injected fun and experience more horsepower than the top 3 imports. The minute you feel Cavalier perform, you'll know what makes Cavalier the hottest selling Chevrolet today.
Chevrolet,
And you.
taking charge.
Thanksgiving Day, an NFL special. The St. Louis Cardinals visit Dallas and hope to ambush the playoff-bound Cowboys. It all begins with the NFL Today on CBS Sports.
Art Rooney, the class gentleman, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, watching on as his team trails by 10. But I guess 3 weeks ago we were here. Tampa Bay had a 12-0 lead, and the Steelers came back to win it in the fourth quarter, 17-12. But then they showed signs of offensive life. The offense has been sputtering. Henry Odom will try to break a big one and get some momentum going. He gets it up as he cracks his way down to the 25. Robin Sendline, again, third year out of Texas, smacked him down at the 25. You know, we talked about the Cardinals being up by that 44-7 score against the Chargers. Cardinals really coming on now under Neil Lomax, and they're getting healthy themselves. They are 4-1-1 their last 6 games.
And wait a minute, shouldn't this be logical as we look at it? San Diego beat Dallas last week. St. Louis is beating San Diego this week, so that should take you with deductive logic to St. Louis beating Dallas on Thanksgiving Day.
Well, you know, they should be 5-1 because they had all kinds of problems that Monday night game against the Giants. Incomplete at the 34-yard line, intended for Garrity, and the Bluebirds will start to ring down on that man. You remember that Monday night game, the 20-20 tie, when they missed a couple of touchdown tosses, and then O'Donohue missed some field goals. Let's go back to New York for an NFL update. Here again is Brent.
Jim, Walter Payton's great day continues for the Chicago Bears. His second touchdown, over 100 yards on the afternoon. The third all-time rushing leader. The Bears are in command against the Buccaneers 20-0. Back to Pittsburgh and Jim Kelly.
I don't know, Brent. They must have put mudcocks on Walter Payton. Running in that monsoon down in Tampa Bay. 2nd and 10 Pittsburgh. Blitz is on. Down goes Stout. Freddie McNeil and Doug Martin. And you get the feeling the Vikings are about to nail this one down.
I was just going to say, you get the feeling that the Vikings are sick of losing and they came to play. Of course, their defense poorly ranked. Take a look at it. Watch the right side of your screen. Stout back to pass. He never sees McNeil coming from that side. He senses him right there, tries to get away, but there's no chance. Goes down for the sack. And this defense, Minnesota's, is ranked 22nd in the NFL, but they live by the big play. 21 interceptions, 16 fumble recoveries, 34 sacks coming into the game today.
Well, you talk about a mismatch. The Vikings defense 25th against the rush. Pittsburgh is 2nd in the NFL in the rushing department. Stout, he needs 16. Goes up top. Incomplete at the 45. There were 5 Minnesota Vikings closer to the football than Calvin Sweeney was. Stout didn't see it.
And you take a look at the defense again, okay? They're playing a big zone defense. They got an extra defensive back in there. They're all playing their areas. There's a huge hole right down the middle, but there's no one there, and that's where Stout throws the ball. Might have been a mix-up with his wide receiver. Calvin Sweeney, number 85, might have been. He was supposed to cut over the middle, but he saw defensive back inside, so he didn't do it. Stout threw it anyhow, incompletion.
And you saw the jubilation of Willie Teal, number 37, who raised his arms up. They know they've got control of this football game. Coleman bangs one. Rufus Best thinks about it and watches it bounce again. It'll go dead at about the 29.5-yard line. A 10-point Minnesota advantage against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh scored first on their very first possession. And after that, it has been all Vikings, losers of 3 in a row.
Devlin, biggest game of the year, and you couldn't get tickets.
Welcome to Miller Time.
He did. Welcome to Miller Time. It's all yours, and it's all mine. Bring your thirsty self right here. The rich, smooth taste of Miller beer is what you have in mind. Welcome to Miller Time.
Welcome to the rich, smooth taste of Miller High Life.
Welcome, you know you're welcome. Welcome, everybody's welcome. Welcome to Miller Time. Yours and mine, yours and mine.
Time remaining, third quarter. It's been a scoreless second and third quarter for that man, Chuck Noll, head coach, Pittsburgh Steelers. Vikings will work on their clock. Tony Galbraith across the 35. Down at the 37, David Little, third year out of Florida, made the tackle secure on Tony.
Galbraith has now carried the ball 20 times for over 84 yards, having a great afternoon. Let's take a look at the quarterbacks out there this afternoon. Steve Dill, 16 of 24, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cliff Stout, miserable afternoon, only 6 completions, 54 yards. Not doing much through the airways.
And it's tough to play catch-up when your quarterback has only completed 6 passes for 54 yards and you're down by 10 points.
I thought it was interesting that Chuck Noll, when we asked him about his team, what did he call it? He said it was adaptable. They're ready to take preparation. That's what's made it so much fun this year to coach them.
You heard the gun. That's the end of the third quarter. It's been a scoreless second and third quarter for the Steelers. The Vikings have tacked on 10 points after being tied 7-all. That's the end of the third quarter with a score of Vikings 17-7. Now a word from your local station.
Sunday on a special 1-hour Alice. Vera gets engaged, but a marriage mix-up could nip her nuptials in the bud. It's a major television event. Vera gets married Sunday.
This is CBS. CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Miller High Life. Welcome to Miller Time. And by the over 1,200 Midas Muffler and Brake Shops.
Jim Kelly and John Dockery welcome back to Pittsburgh where the Vikings lead by 10. Galbraith sweeps the right side and almost breaks it around that right side. Excuse me, that was Jarvis Redwine. And he is having his finest game as a Minnesota Vikings. In fact, he had his first carry in the first quarter.
And coming into this game, so many people thought that the Minnesota Vikings would go to the razzle-dazzle offense, put players all over the field. The Pittsburgh Steelers were ready for that hurry-up offense with 4 wide receivers. They really haven't done that. They've kept to the things they do best, short passes out of the backfield. Some running plays. I'm surprised they're running this well as you look at Jarvis Redwine's stats against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which is 4th in the league against the rush.
First and 10. Pitch back. Jarvis Redwine again. Loose football, but he fumbles it out of bounds. Break for the Vikings, who will hang on to the pigskin. David Little, the man that chopped it loose from Jarvis Redwine. Redwine, the second back in Nebraska history to accumulate 2 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons.
And we're talking to Chuck Noll. We asked him the difference. Everyone's comparing this defense to the great Joe Green defenses of the 4 Super Bowl teams. He said, you know what, the difference is those defenses used to shut down people cold. This defense we have creates turnovers.
From the 49 of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Vikings look at 2nd and 3. Galbraith replacing Jarvis Redwine. Dills, draw play, Galbraith. Hammered at the line of scrimmage. Mike Merriweather along with Keith Garrett. You can see Lambert trying to pick up the intensity.
And he says he's not a rah-rah guy. He talked about coming here with the great defense as being a young guy, and how Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Andy Russell, those guys led. It was with quiet intensity. He does the same thing. He doesn't say much. He just lets his play speak for him, and certainly it does.
After the Steelers won 7 straight games, I asked Jack at the Pittsburgh practice the other day, I said, does this young team know how good they are? And he chuckled and he said, I don't even know how good they are. Vikings need 2 to keep the football. Dills will air it out. Good pass protection. Goes up on top. Leo Lewis incomplete. I don't think that would have been a legal catch had he made it, because he went out of bounds and then came back in. Dwayne Woodruff back there on the coverage. So Pittsburgh will get that football back and will have to play catch-up. They did it a couple weeks ago against Tampa Bay when the Bucs led 12-0, and Pittsburgh came back with 17 straight points in the fourth quarter.
And you may say, well, that's not such a great feat. Tampa Bay, of course, was winless at the time, but Tampa Bay has an excellent defense, so that the Pittsburgh Steelers did it against a very good defense. But on the other side of the coin, Tampa Bay's offense went into a shell. Minnesota is not doing that here this afternoon.
Well, you remember what all the coaches said as they got ready to play against Tampa Bay. They said, you look at Leroy Selman, you look at Hugh Green, and tell me they're an 0-8 or an 0-9 football team. Great punt by Coleman, and look at him jumping up and down and high-fiving at the 45 as he nailed it inside the 5 to the 4-yard line. So Cliff Stout and the Pittsburgh Steelers, trailing by 10, will have to go 96 yards. Take a look at Coleman here. We talked about the high fives and the reaction. He watches it go out of bounds, and he said, all right, get out of there. I did it. I nailed it. A high 5 and a low 5, and it's 1st and 10 Pittsburgh from their own 4.
Ford Escort. It's engineered with 4-wheel independent suspension for a smoother ride than this Japanese import. It's engineered with more passenger room than this Japanese import. Plus, Escort has more standard features than this Japanese import. And now with the new available 2-liter diesel engine, Ford Escort is engineered for better mileage ratings than this Japanese import. Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Presenting Magnavox and Ralph.
Attaboy, Ralph. Another day with my Magnavox. Look at that Magnavox picture. So bright and clear and so reliable. Whenever I'm ready, my Magnavox is ready. Yes, sir. If there's one thing I can count on, it's my Magnavox. And my dog Ralph here. If you want reliability, get a Magnavox. Because I'm not giving up Ralph.
Magnavox. The performance lasts.
Doc, as the Steelers start from their own 4, consider that just 2 weeks ago, James Wilder had 219 yards against the, well, we'll pick that up in just a second. It is 1st and 10 from the 10-yard line. Pittsburgh down by 10. Frank Pollard, nothing doing. Again, 2 weeks ago, James Wilder, 219 yards rushing against this Minnesota defense. Tony Dorsett, 141 yards. Walter Payton, 102 yards. Earl Campbell, 130. O.J. Anderson, 136. Wendell Tyler, 107. What's happened to Franco?
You had to figure that Franco came into this game saying, oh, boy, you know, smacking his lips saying, aha, here's my 100-yard game. Here I get closer to Jim Brown. It hasn't been the case. Franco only has 30 yards rushing. The total rushing for the Pittsburgh Steelers is only 89 yards.
And it's be careful time. Stout looks at 2nd and 10. Vikings show the blitz. Only one wide receiver out. That's Garrity, top of the screen. Pollard again behind a block by Franco. A nice block around the left side. Needs to motor a little bit more. Gets out near the 8-yard line. Good blocking by 77 Steve Corson in his 6th year out of South Carolina, but a good defensive play by Joey Browner to string it out.
And Pollard had a good week last week. Joey Browner did make a good play. Pollard 80 yards against the Baltimore Colts in that victory for the Steelers. He leaves the field. A lot of people say Frank Pollard should be playing more, but there just hasn't been room with #1 draft choice Walter Abercrombie and, of course, the great Franco Harris.
Boy, what is wrong in Philadelphia? Marion Campbell benches a couple of his starters, like Stan Walters and Harold Carmichael, and the Giants lead Philadelphia 23-0. 3rd and 6. Stout. Here come the Vikings underneath. That's very close to a first down. Calvin Sweeney. That's only Calvin's second catch of what is becoming a long afternoon for the Pittsburgh wide receivers, and that is a Steeler first down.
Joey Browner showed his youth. He's a rookie out of USC, number 47. He had a great beat on Calvin Sweeney. Had he been willing to read the quarterback and gamble a little bit, he would have broken up that play.
First down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sweeney, by the way, scored his first pro touchdown, a 21-yard reception against the Vikings back in 1980. They could use another one here to get back into it. Sweeney wide right. Play action to Franco, throws the block. Stout. Pollard's got it at the 20. And one of the Vikings has got Pollard. That is Tommy Hannon, 7th year out of Michigan State.
Stout's starting to open it up a little bit, but he's doing it in a smart way. He doesn't want to throw an interception, have a turnover down here. He's sending his backs out of the backfield, short passes over the middle to his wide receivers to see if he can move the ball off the field. Remember, Pittsburgh will get the ball back 2 or 3 more times with 11 minutes left in this game. No need to panic.
Remember when we were here against Tampa Bay, Wayne Capers, the rookie, had such a great game, number 80. They certainly miss him to kind of open things up and help Sweeney out on the other side. 2nd and 3, Pittsburgh. They trail 17-7. Frank Pollard. Not much doing around the left side. Good penetration by number 73, Neil Elshire.
And Jim, you mentioned Wayne Capers, the rookie from Kansas, coming on so well. Of course, in fairness to Cliff Stout, some of his big weapons are gone. John Stallworth, hurt. He's out of the game with an ankle. Of course, Jim Smith gone to the other league before the year began. Lynn Swan no longer in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. So in the old days, Bradshaw had all those terrific weapons. Cliff Stout does not have those big weapons.
Right now, he's got a 3rd and short situation, less than a yard. Benny Cunningham, John Rogers, and Craig Dunaway. Might be a good time for play action and try to go for the big play. That has not been Pittsburgh's philosophy. Franco, first down at the 28-yard line. In the grasp of Joey Browner, but that's a first down for the Steelers. They need a sustained scoring drive. They need to give their defense a rest, let them get a chance to regroup, but they also need a touchdown.
But the philosophy of this Minnesota Viking defense, you've heard it many times, they'll bend, but they don't break. And that's what they're doing right now. A couple of first downs, but how many times does a team in the NFL drive 90 yards without a mistake and get a touchdown? That's what Minnesota is banking on.
Greg Hawthorne, 27, wide to the top of your screen. Down to the near side, Sweeney. Stout will look for Hawthorne. Gives him the pump fake. Goes up top. Hawthorne wide open. Hawthorne. First down.
Stout said he was going to do this. Watch the pump fake by Cliff Stout. That freezes the defensive back. He buys it, and then Hawthorne turns upfield right there. Hawthorne turns it up, has his man beaten by 2 or 3 yards. He has deceiving speed. They say he's the fastest wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers. There he gets a big first down, and Pittsburgh is back in scoring position on their 20-yard line.
That 60-yard reception by Greg Hawthorne in his 5th year out of Baylor, the longest reception in his pro football career. From the 20-yard line of the Vikings. 1st and 10, Pittsburgh. Pollard. Boy, the Vikings had that one sniffed out, and somehow Frank Pollard managed to pick up 1 grueling yard. Scott Studwell and Charlie Johnson had him in their grasp, but Pollard's forward motion carried him down to the 19.
Of course, Greg Hawthorne has been out most of the year with that pulled thigh muscle. He came back last week, had 1 reception there. That 60-yarder put some life back into the Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
You talk about Charlie Johnson, the former Philadelphia Eagle who plays the nose tackle. He said, some of our Vikings have not been playing as hard, not with the same intensity that we need to in order to win. This game, we've got to put the textbook on the shelf. Pollard down to the 15. Freddie McNeil had him down around the ankles. Interesting 3rd down call coming up now. 8 minutes, 4 seconds and counting left to go in this football game as Garrity checks in, the rookie out of Penn State, with a play call from Chuck Noll.
Cliff Stout especially difficult for a defense down here because of his mobility. He can scramble, he can buy time, he can even run for a first down. That puts tremendous pressure on a defense.
Garrity and Hawthorne are in there at wide receivers. Cunningham's the tight end. Calvin Sweeney out wide to the right side. Hawthorne left. Stout now looks at 3rd and 7. Inside the 10, that'll be close to a Steeler first down. The rookie out of Penn State. How about that? You bring the play in, call your own number.
And that was a simple play where Garrity, all he did was go down about 8 yards, 7 yards, turn inside. John Swain was trying to cover him. He broke outside, and Cliff Stout got it to him for the first down.
Number 87, John Rogers, second year out of Louisiana Tech, comes in with a play. Garrity checks out. Nervous Bud Grant on the sideline. His Vikings, even though they're tied with Green Bay, have lost 3 in a row. Sweeney wide left. Hawthorne in the backfield along with Franco Harris. Hawthorne slithers down to about the 5 and then is wrestled backwards. Pittsburgh knocking on the Viking door. Studwell and Johnson anchoring things in the middle.
And that causes problems for a defense. When they see Hawthorne in there, they don't know whether he's going to be a wide receiver or a running back. Just added uncertainty. That gives the offense an edge.
Well, there's also another edge for the Steelers offensively, and that is the running ability of Cliff Stout. Now, interesting on second down and goal for the Minnesota defense, because that's what Scott Studwell was saying. We have to be contained conscious with a Cliff Stout, so maybe play action here would be a good maneuver. Slot to the right side, Hawthorne wide left. Stout wants Hawthorne. Incomplete and almost intercepted by Willie Teal. Boy, you can't play cornerback on a post pattern any better than that.
And Hawthorne, though, made a good play to get that ball away from Willie Teal, who had inside position and almost came up with the interception. Hawthorne ripped the ball away, so it was not. So the Steelers have another opportunity.
You could see the indecision from Cliff Stout. Anytime a quarterback is shuffling his feet back and forth like he's out there on a dance floor, or he takes that football and smacks at it a couple times, he's not sure where he's going to throw.
It's called nervous feet. You've seen a lot of quarterbacks with it when the pressure comes.
Sweeney wide left, Garrity in the slot. Hawthorne moves to the left side now. Motion top of the screen by number 85, Calvin Sweeney. Stout can run back to the right side, gets a block at the 5 and will dive. Touchdown! We talked about the Vikings having to be contained conscious. Cliff Stout has brought Pittsburgh back to it in 4.
They were contained conscious. Stout ran that ball right up the middle and launched himself into the end zone for the touchdown.
Big extra point. Anderson is perfect. The Viking lead has been sliced to 3. 17-14, 6 minutes left to go in a good football game, and we expected as much from the NFC and the AFC Central Division leaders.
You're about to see the Ford Ranger leap to new heights in quality. Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months, Ranger quality was unbeaten by any major small truck maker. And Ranger has V6 power, more horsepower than Chevy S10 of the imports, and a wider cab than any small truck. For toughness, horsepower, and unbeaten quality, it's Ranger down-to-earth tough. The best-built American trucks are built. Ford Tough.
You know, at Midas, we've installed over 48 million mufflers, more than any other muffler chain. In fact, compare us to any of them, and you know what you'll find?
We've had more repeat customers than they've had customers.
We've done more foreign cars than they've done cars.
And with our Midas guarantee, we've installed more free mufflers than they've sold. When it comes to experience, no one can touch Midas.
Trust the Midas touch.
College basketball returns to CBS Sports as Kansas takes on Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon and the rest of Houston's Phi Slama Jama crew Saturday on CBS Sports.
Cliff Stout driving the Minnesota Viking defense crazy. Here he rolls out looking for his receivers. They're covered. And it's as though the Minnesota Vikings freeze for a moment. Here's Stout. Watch him launch himself right there. Touchdown.
And then he threw the ball for what might be his longest completion of the day. It went to a fan almost in the second level of the stands. From the 35, Anderson approaches a high end-over-end kick. Jarvis Redwine at the 10. Look out! Redwine explodes across the 30, down at the 34. Paul Skansky on the tackle. Otherwise, Redwine was off toward the tunnel, and it was at the other end of the field. We've got a timeout. The Vikings lead is 3, 5:52 to go.
Have you driven a Ford? Then you don't know what you're missing. Have you driven a Ford lately? Have you driven a Ford? Look outward. Then you don't know what you're missing.
Have you driven the best-built American cars and trucks?
Have you driven a Ford? Driven a Ford lately?
A diamond, a miracle. Every diamond is rare, but a diamond of a carat or more is only 1 in a million. And like love, becomes more precious with time. The diamond solitaire, born from the earth, reborn on a woman. An extraordinary diamond of a carat or more. Show the world you couldn't have made it without her.
Losers of 3 straight. It is nail-biting time for that man, Bud Grant. Tough to play offense right now when you know the Steeler defense is teeing off on you. Big hole left side, though, and a good pickup of 6 yards for Ricky Young. Steve Riley and Jim Huff over on the left side, and they just simply blew off the ball and opened up a big hole.
And that little bit of counteraction, that little bit of misdirection is causing problems to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're getting yards. Today, Galbraith has already carried the ball 21 times for 85 yards. Dill's a good afternoon, 188 yards passing so far. He's going to have to put the ball up some.
5:23 left to go in regulation. Steelers want the football back. Vikings want to work on the clock and maybe out a score from the 40 of Minnesota. That's
play,
close to first down yardage for Ricky Young.
Excuse me, it was the same play to the other side, and it's getting yardage.
It was interesting in talking with Joe Sensor at the hotel. He said, we feel we can run on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, despite the fact they are ranked number 2 in the NFL against the rush. And he said our offensive linemen, they think they have a little something to show. They're playing for pride after last week's performance against the Green Bay Packers. And Sensor had a grin on his face. He looked like the cat that swallowed the canary. They looked like they knew something, didn't they? 1st and 10 from the 45. Vikings lead by 3. Galbraith, maybe 1. Johnny Goodman out of Oklahoma in his 3rd year. Hurled his 6'6", 250-pound frame.
But you got the sense there that the Pittsburgh Steelers were edging up to the line of scrimmage. They know that the Minnesota Vikings would like to use up their clock. There's only 4 minutes, 15 seconds left in this game. Pittsburgh trails by 3 points, but the Steelers are going to shut down that run and force the Vikings to throw the ball.
Well, you talk about the time left in the game. That's in regulation because they've got the AFC's leading scorer, Gary Anderson, the place kicker out of Syracuse. 2nd and 9. Dills will go up top. He looks for Casper. Incomplete at the 37. Ricky Woods was back there in the coverage, and the Steelers came with a blitz. Hurling on through there. Mike Merriweather putting the pressure on Dills, who had to unload early to Casper.
It didn't work, but you like to help. You like the idea.
Like the play call.
Definitely, because it loosens up the Pittsburgh Steelers. It shows you're not afraid to put the ball up. And believe me, you're going to have trouble running the ball against the Steelers at the moment. 3:49 left. Interesting call right now. 3rd and 10 for Steve Dills.
I would say so. Interesting defense also for the Steelers because you want to send them in and put some pressure on Dills and get them in the backfield, try to force some kind of a turnover, but you don't want to be victimized right now. Let's see if they play it straight or come with a blitz. Slot to the left side for the Vikings. They play it straight. Dills. He throws it away. The receiver turned it inside. It's picked off. Ricky Woods. Ricky Woods gets a block at the 30. Penalty flag is down at the 25. The Steelers will have the football, but the return will be negated probably by a clip. Look at Lambert out on the field. Lambert is screaming at the official at the 33-yard line. Lambert just ripped his helmet off, and he is not asking for the official's address to send him a Christmas card.
Steve Dills just threw that ball up for grabs. Yes, there was a lack of communication between receiver and quarterback. Still, he just laid it up into that zone, intercepted by Woods, the thing he did not want to happen.
Mike Jones, the rookie out of Tennessee State, turned it inside. Dills thought he was going outside, thus the apparent mistake, the interception. And from the 15-yard line, Jim Tunney will explain.
The run back, illegal push in the back, number 58, first down.
So we've got 3:36 left to go in regulation. The Steelers trail the Minnesota Vikings by 3 points. Take a look. Watch the receiver turn it inside. The ball goes outside.
Now, they didn't blitz because they feel they can get a rush on him without blitzing. Here, he just throws it up. You see it? It's intercepted by Woods. Pittsburgh will get a chance to tie or go ahead in this game.
You're gonna love it.
This car gets 4 coats of electrostatic paint, and lasers make sure the process runs smooth as silk. You're gonna love the finish.
Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months of use, Ford Motor Company is building the highest quality cars and trucks of any U.S. manufacturer.
You're gonna love the quality Ford. Quality is job one.
I love it.
A lot of good old boys around here know the best places to hunt and fish. Places that are hard to get to and get through and get around. That's why they got the original, the Honda ATC. The ATC will get you through water, it'll get you through swamp and mud. The fact is, the ATC works so good down here. There's a story going around that Mr. Honda used to live on the bayou. Everybody know he lived up by Shreveport.
Top-ranked and undefeated Nebraska looks unstoppable. Saturday, they play Big 8 rival Oklahoma, plus other regional games. NCAA football Saturday on CBS Sports.
Greg Hawthorne, Walter Abercrombie, Calvin Sweeney deployed along with Franco Harris, who's in the running back slot. Play action. Stout now chased out of the pocket, and a quick whistle. Tough call right there for Jim Tunney. Matt Blair had him. Stout got away. Fans don't like it.
You know the rule. It's grasp and control. Obviously, the official felt that. Take a look at it again. Matt Blair is on the blitz. Stout fakes, gets up. Blair is right there. Grabs him around the hips and the waist, spins him around. That's when the official called it. Of course, Stout at 6'4", 218, is a strong quarterback. Tough to bring down. The fans in Pittsburgh do not like it.
He might have been in the grasp, but I'm not sure he was in the control. He spun out of there pretty quickly.
That's a judgment call.
2nd and 17. Steelers are in trouble now. That was a big loss of 7 yards. Stout fires over the middle. Got the Calvin Sweeney, and he is bounced out of bounds. Clock continues to run, however. Willie Teal. Fans thought maybe the clock should have stopped. 2:49 and counting. Bud Grant wants that clock to run double time. The Vikings have lost 3 in a row. The Pittsburgh Steelers have their 3rd longest winning streak in the history of the franchise with 7 straight wins. Cunningham, slot to the right. Sweeney is outside of him. Hawthorne wide left. 2nd and 8 Pittsburgh. Stout in trouble. Fires. Got Cunningham. He's got the first down. He's trying to hang on to the football and carries it across the 30. Look at Stout waving the Steelers up in the hurry-up offense. Time remaining, 2:10 and counting.
He wants to use that 2-minute warning instead of one of his timeouts. He has 3 minutes remaining, 3 timeouts remaining. I don't know if he'll get the play off in time. He doesn't.
We've got 2 minutes left to go in regulation. The Steelers driving for what could be a tying field goal. 2 minutes left when we come back.
Hey, what'd I tell you? Bobby Allison's favored.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Welcome to Miller Time. It's all yours, and it's all mine. Bring your thirsty self right here. The rich, smooth taste of Miller beer is what you have in mind. Welcome to Miller Time.
Welcome to the rich, smooth taste of Miller High Life.
You're looking at the unique aerodynamic design of the new '84 Ford Tempo.
But come on in for the inside story. Tempo has more driver legroom than an Audi 5000. There's a clear view of the instrument cluster. Driver's controls and storage areas are fingertips away. And Tempo's interior actually has more rear room than the Mercedes 300D. The new Ford Tempo. Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Jim Kelly and John Dockery, welcome back to Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. That's the situation. Time remaining. It has been a dandy. The Vikings, who've lost 3 in a row, led by as many as 10 points. The Steelers playing catch-up. Green Bay tied with the Minnesota Vikings for the top rung in that NFC Central, leading by a touchdown against Detroit late in their game. The Packers up by 7. Pittsburgh now looking at 1st and 10. They're trying to get down into Gary Anderson field goal range. They can't afford a turnover. Stout, all kinds of time, looks for Garrity, incomplete and almost intercepted. Hawthorne was the man who had turned around Willie Teal, and Teal almost came up with the underthrown ball.
The ball was underthrown. Willie Teal had help deep, and he almost came up with the interception. See, Carl Lee was trying to cover Hawthorne deep from Willie Teal, had the underneath coverage. He turned to run. He got one hand on the ball, but couldn't hold it. That would have been a turning point of the game right there. Willie Teal can't come up with a big play.
You know, Doc, Cliff Stout talks about his maturing and about the fact he's patient. Now's the time when he's got to demonstrate that patience and take what the Minnesota Vikings defense gives you. Not get greedy. You've got lots of time to get it down in field goal range. 2nd and 10. Stout batted down at the line of scrimmage, and it's deflected, and Calvin Sweeney came up with it. The ball was deflected by a Minnesota lineman. Sweeney kept his concentration. 1st down, Pittsburgh.
And something more and more teams are doing in the NFL. They're running plays, screen plays, pick plays. That time, Greg Hawthorne, number 27, ran a screen for number 85, Calvin Sweeney. And that's the completion. A little bit of luck there for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but nonetheless, 1st down.
Neil Elshire, 6'6", 260, got a hand on the football, and somehow Sweeney kept his concentration and came up with that big catch. 1st down for the Steelers from their own 45-yard line. 1:49 to go. Viking defense, nickel back, digs in. Stout, straight drop, in trouble. Penalty flag is down, and so is Cliff Stout. James White came crashing through. That flag in the vicinity of holding. Let's check Jim Tunney. Holding, Pittsburgh. Randy Holloway. Doug Martin came crashing in. Final in from Foxborough. The Cleveland Browns a 30-0 whitewash against the New England Patriots. So the Browns still very much alive in the AFC Central.
Holding 62, decline. 2nd down.
Steelers decline the penalty. Let's see if we can find it. They'll keep the down box moving. Detroit has just come back. How about that against the Green Bay Packers? So if the Vikings are scoreboard watching right now, they can see they've got a chance to pick up some ground. Right now, they are trying to dig in and hold Cliff Stout. 2nd and 19. It bounces to Benny Cunningham.
Tremendous pressure on Cliff Stout by Martin, Duck White, Randy Holloway. The Minnesota Viking defense is rising to the occasion now. We talked about them making the big plays. They came in with 34 sacks. Here they have 5 or 6 this afternoon.
Desperation time now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3rd and 19. The way the game is going, you've got to figure, though, that Pittsburgh is really in a 4-down situation. They've got 2 plays to get 19 yards. You don't figure they're going to punt it away with 1:39 to go. Slot formation to the right side. Hawthorne wide left. Stout, here comes the Vikings. Stout, scrambling pocket. He can run for it. Comes back against the grain. Wide open. No! Incomplete. Stout couldn't get the ball. You can't get any more wide open. Why didn't he run?
Why didn't he run? He would have had a chance to pick up a lot of it, Jim, no doubt about it. But that time his arm betrayed him. Visions of Terry Bradshaw doing the same thing with that great arm falling down, flicking the ball 30, 40, 50 yards. Stout doesn't have that kind of arm. Here he scrambles to get away from the rush.
Now right there is where he could have run for at least 15 yards.
But he saw Hawthorne was wide open, no one near him. Within 10, 15 yards of him, the ball is like a duck wobbling. Hawthorne trying to come back, can't get his arms underneath it. It hits the turf, so it's 4th and long.
The game hinges on this play. Nickel back. Now 6 defensive backs are in for the Minnesota Vikings. Pittsburgh takes a timeout. 4th and 19. It all comes down to one play. Well, we told you Cleveland has beaten New England 30-0. Miami has shut out Baltimore 37-0. So the Dolphins now go to 8-4 atop that AFC East, and in the AFC Central, the Cleveland Browns are 7-5. Doubleheader Sunday next week here on CBS. John and I will be in New Orleans to bring you the Vikings and Saints game. Washington plays host to Philadelphia. San Francisco travels to Chicago. Then on our doubleheader Sunday, the Green Bay Packers, right now knotted up 20-all against Detroit, will tangle with Atlanta, or the New York Giants, with a big win against Philadelphia today, will take on the Los Angeles Raiders. It's all next Sunday. CBS Sports, doubleheader Sunday, and it starts with Brent Musburger and the NFL Today.
And there's the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Art Rooney. And remember a couple of weeks ago when we were here against Tampa Bay, Art Rooney told us, you know, this team has been very lucky. We've had a relatively easy schedule. Well, today, the Minnesota Vikings are rising to the occasion, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the verge of losing for the first time in 8 games.
Garrity wide to the right side. Hawthorne and Sweeney ride left. Stout needs 19 yards and a first down, otherwise the Vikings win. Benny Cunningham, he drops the ball at the 33. Stout is on his knees. Chuck Noll has gone numb on the Pittsburgh sideline. Benny Cunningham had it and dropped it.
And the stadium has gone quiet. Cunningham opened down the seam. Stout throws a pretty good ball. Cunningham had to turn around to try and catch it. It's wobbling a little bit, but it was certainly catchable. It would have been a first down. Steelers would have been right in field goal range.
Minnesota Vikings take over on downs. They have lost 3 in a row. They lost to St. Louis. They lost to Tampa Bay. They lost to Green Bay. We talked about St. Louis, the fact they're 4-1-1 in their last 6 games. CBS Sports has got the Cardinals and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Thursday. And, of course, Brent, Irv, Phyllis, the Greek, and the NFL Today will precede that. Right now, the Vikings will play ball control. Ricky Young with both arms wrapped around it. 1:20 left to go. The Steelers have 2 timeouts. Now they have 1. Coming up after the game, Brent, Irv, Jimmy, all the scores and highlights from around the NFL today. And there have been some big scores. Cleveland shutting out New England. Miami shutting out Baltimore. And what a job the Cardinals have done today. 2 touchdowns on the ground the last time we had heard by Neil Lomax, and 2 by passing.